Recording. Hi, my name is Renee Hobbs, and here we are with the students of EDC 534 Digital Authorship. Tonight's date is Monday, March 6, 2017, and we have a very good looking gallery of talented, amazing people here. So we'll just ask you to wave when I call your name. I'm going to turn on the speaker view. I see Kristen. There she is. She's waving. I see Marie. She's waving. I see Mary Wallace. She's waving. I see Olivia. She's waving. I see Lourdes. She's waving. I see Vanessa. Vanessa, those are kick-ass headphones. Just saying. Those headphones rock. I see Nicole. You know, I have a great longing to encounter you guys in 3 dimensions. So this is my effort here, right? I see Dan Tucker. Hey, Dan.
Hello.
Welcome. Winnie, I don't see you, but I know you're there. Can we test your microphone? I'm not sure I can hear Winnie yet, but I certainly can see Donna. Give me a big wave. Awesome. And let me just see, did I miss anybody? Han Yen, she is waving. She is waving and she's in the next room. So that's even cooler, right? We're so glad you're here.
And Tori's trying to get on. I guess her computer's frozen right now. She'll join us shortly.
And there is Winnie on another machine. This is excellent. Can you hear us, Winnie? Okay, I know you can, right? Can you hear us? We can see you. Yes, okay, give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. Good show. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, so we have an absolutely huge agenda tonight, and I want to share my screen with you because so much to talk about, so little time. First, I was just saying to the rest of the group that I did post a small, you guys are at work now, you finished your reflective essays, and hopefully you've posted those to your blog. Next up is Leap 3. And over here underneath syllabus where the leaps are, Leap 3, I went back in my archives and I found another really great example. Don't get freaked out by Leap 3. Leap 3 is really about, can you represent a dialogue with your partner using some form of multimedia authorship? That's a pretty loose assignment. So if you're using dialogue and we see you thinking about stuff that is relevant to the course and that's intriguing to you, if you represent it in some form of multimedia form and you're aware that you're speaking to a wider audience than just the 2 of you, and if your work shows what happens when people actually engage in dialogue, and you put it online, you're going to do really great, right? But just to give you a sense of what that looks like, next week, these 2, Kate Williams and Clarissa Walker, they did their Leap 3 responding to a reading that we're reading next class. I'm just going to screen for you the first 30 seconds or so.
Short video called Color Correction, which serves as our case study. If media scholars work color correction together, what might be their collective response? We seat them in our Burkean parlor and press play. For background, Color Correction is a short video about a young African-American photographer seeking a paying job and a place for his creative work. He makes positive images of everyday people in his Oakland community, but his creative work is rejected in a market that attempts to relegate him to rap video production with drugs and violence as central themes, when this representation is actually anything but authentic. The video continues to show how the protagonist becomes further conflicted and aware of how selling out to this type of representation actually begins to influence and trap members of his community towards consuming and taking on these representations. In turn, this does nothing but keep his community disempowered, ensnared by media producers who do not represent them. Chavez and Soap observe that it is often the creative projects, video and gallery showings, that are deemed more forward-thinking, that breed social and economic inequalities. If Cavory and Matthews popped into the parlor discussion, they may have inserted a comment about marketability as a guiding influence. Furthermore, the filmmaker in the video demonstrates clarity about what Lang calls representational ideology. The morals in his attitude toward his work is apparent. His portfolio shows a neighbor proud of a degree that he just earned, a beautiful portrait of a father with his daughter. This filmmaker's ideology seems to be built around representing the Black community as accomplished and family-oriented, because that is what he experiences and lives. However, his creative authorship is being curtailed by the expectations of his teachers, peers, and the market. The question remains, who gets to speak, who is heard, and to what end? With the widespread accessibility of online tools, cultural production is a part of everyday life. Hypothetically, the protagonist could turn towards the internet as a medium for his work. He has the potential to reach a mass audience, but there is no guarantee that he would find that audience or ever make money from his work. How might we empower him towards his own representation online?
Created using Powtoon.
Okay, so you can see in that example that the way these two partners chose to represent the dialogue wasn't to actually engage in a nya. They had that conversation, and then they represented the argument that emerged from it as a unified whole. That's cool, right? However you do it, you'll do it, right? And but the idea is you're working through the process of finding those ideas through dialogue and collaboration. So let's just see right now if you guys have any questions about Leap 3. Since Leap 3 is, well, it's your next kind of big project. Do you guys have any questions about Leap 3, which is due Monday, March 20th?
Question, Renee, about Storyfy.
Yeah.
We discussed doing that. Can you only do a collaborative version of it with like the paid premium version of it?
I believe that Storyfy wants to charge you if you work with a partner.
Yeah, that stinks because that would be a great tool to use.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and one of the things that's complicated about that is that you could imagine a way for you to do it where one of you is essentially the curator and the other one maybe is creating some of the content. So you could still use Storyfy, one person doing the curating and the other one perhaps creating some content. Remember that how you define your collaboration is part of your creative work together, right? Don't feel limited by the fact that it's true. Many platforms charge free premium prices for you to work on a document together, and some discourage it. Like the infographic platforms, they say don't work together on the same project because it doesn't work very well. So don't think that you have to co-create.
Okay.
Or maybe just think creatively about that.
Okay.
So if you want to use Storyfy, you certainly can. Thanks for that good question, Mary. What's another question you guys have about Leap 3? No, because you're feeling completely confident. That's so awesome. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. I on our agenda tonight, I do want to talk for you a little bit about my great experience this past weekend going to Facebook to discuss news literacy. So, you know, this news literacy is bad news or this fake news thing is bad news for the whole world, but it's really great for media literacy. Let's
Okay, so that is the, I guess we could call that like a video public relations tool. That's a video public relations tool about the event that I went to last week. Just a little backstory. Maybe you saw the news about Mark Zuckerberg's 6,000 word manifesto, right? On Facebook, social responsibility in the age of hoaxes. It's a fascinating essay, very beautifully written, very interesting about how Facebook perceives their responsibility as well as the largest, as the mass media of all time, right? So there I was in Arizona at the Arizona State University with about 25 people from Facebook and Google and Twitter and Instagram and WordPress, and then about 35 other people, mostly representing journalists, fact-checking organization, and I think there were probably 6 of us who were the educators, right? We were really, and then, so it was like platform people, journalists, and then there was a small group of educators. And God, I learned a lot. I mean, really, I learned a lot. And what became really obvious to me is that journalism is dying, and it is being replaced by the decontextualized snippets that people share on their Facebook. And Facebook is aware that such practices, 60% of Americans getting most of their news from Facebook, is actually degrading the quality of public discourse because the algorithm is the editor, right? And yet most Americans don't know what an algorithm is and don't know how the algorithm is making decisions about what you see, what kind of news you see on the news feed, right? So we had a great weekend talking about what could be done. And the topics were ranged all over like crazy. But one thing I learned is that Facebook's and many of the social media platforms struggle with what Henry Jenkins called the transparency problem. They struggle with explaining how their media products are constructed, right? And that's partly because they're changing the algorithm every day, right? They're doing experiments that change your Facebook. Your Facebook works differently now than it did last year, right? Or last week. And because Facebook is so actively experimenting, it's kind of hard to be transparent, right? But they are a little bit concerned that by suppressing nudity, they kind of got in trouble like a while back when they removed the famous Vietnam War image of the little girl running with the napalm, the little girl running naked through the streets, burning with napalm, right? That was removed by Facebook because it showed nudity. And their algorithms don't have the contextual knowledge that human editors do, right? Algorithms are written by humans, but they can only approximate the editorial decisions that humans make. And I guess I left the meeting feeling like, whoa, how cool and how much I want to teach a course on social media literacy, right? And, that's cool. I also felt like if Facebook gets into the business of being a news provider and they don't know what they're doing because they're platform people, not publishers, then they could lose a lot of audience who might like perceive their little algorithms as being editorially biased, restricting freedom of expression, being another kind of big brother. because they're new at this business of being editors. So the whole week was fascinating and got me thinking a lot about teaching about fake news, and made me realize very humbly how little I know about the way in which the social media platforms are shaping public knowledge and attitudes about news and information. So that being said, I'm left with one question for you, which is, what do you love and hate about getting the news from Facebook? From you, when you look at your Facebook, do you get news? What kind of news do you get? What do you love and hate about getting news via Facebook? Who wants to go first? Anita.
Well, what I love about it is that it's almost faster to get it. Like, it happens so quick. I can get it like this, as opposed to waiting for news to come on the TV. But what I hate about it is it's overkill in that when there's something actually really dramatic going on, which is constant, it's like an emotional, it's too much. I literally just have to take a social media break constantly because it's bad for my emotional health, because it's a bombardment. Because most of my friends have similar political views as me, right? So it's too much sometimes.
Got it. That's a great way to kick us off. Who's next? What do you love and hate about getting getting news on your social media network? Nicole,
Okay.
and then Winnie.
Did you say Nicole then Winnie?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're trying to think.
For me, I would say that I would, the sources, I'm not always sure about the sources is a problem for me, because a lot of the sources that are, credible and true on Facebook that I find aren't, I've never heard of before. So some of them, that aren't credible and aren't true, they, for all I know, they could be absolutely credible. What they're saying sometimes is outrageous, so I'm not sure. But I think for the most part, for me, like I said, finding credible sources throughout my Facebook news feed.
Thanks. Winnie.
Okay. So,
love and hate. What do you love and hate?
I love it because it's instant. I can literally know what the news is right away by just opening my phone. I have arranged the news outlets and in such a way that I can get a snapshot of what's going on, the headline, the news headline. So it just tells me what is going on. Now, one thing I've learned is that many times, like the fake news comes in, you don't know whether it's right or wrong. Now, then when I now get home or somewhere, then I can listen to the entire news and then hear more editorial point of views for the news, rather than the snippets and the headline news that I hear. But that headline news kind of tells me what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's.
And I like the way you talk about the ideas. Yes, the snippet comes through and gives you the immediate thing, and then the additional news sources gives you more context, like both and.
Yeah. Now, what I don't like about it, more especially on Facebook, is the commercials, the advertisements, the commercials that are coming in. When you're reading the news, you don't know, there's just commercials everywhere. You're trying to clear them because you're more interested in the news. I don't want to look at this. So I'm trying to clear them. Sometimes you can't even find a stop button to click on.
Yeah, because sometimes those videos play automatically, right?
Yeah. So that's what I hate about it.
Yeah.
Because once you get going with the news, you want to read the rest of the news. What's going on?
Nice observation about the way ads come in the news feed and how they're layered.
I don't like it.
Thanks for sharing. One more thing you love and hate about the news on Facebook. Tori, and then Vanessa.
So I don't like how it makes your friends' opinions so public, because obviously people share news that they agree with more. So I'm thinking politics right now. If you see a friend share something that you don't agree with, it can make you think differently of them. Or more commonly, if you share something, there's bound to be that one person who calls you out. You're not who I thought you were. And it really is like ruining a lot of friendships and families even. So, I mean, I just think it's making things that could be private more known, and that causes issues.
What a great observation. Vanessa.
So, along those lines, when I see people like wildly misrepresenting information or with things that are very like inflammatory, especially when they're used in arguments that I'm witnessing, especially if it's for someone that I care about, I feel like I have this responsibility to say something, to like point it out. And this is definitely a new hard thing to deal with. Like, how do you interact with this fake news epidemic online, especially when it's people that you care about, and how do you handle that? So that's difficult.
We actually, at the conference this weekend, we actually had a shorthand for that. That came to be called the Uncle Bob problem. You love your uncle, but
yes.
how do you?
Yes.
Like a media literacy course for Uncle Bob and like.
Yes.
Like, right?
Yes. That's exactly it. Or I have like friends who have family members who are like that, and I'm witnessing this train wreck happening, and I'm like, what are you doing? Do you know how you look right now? And they don't. They have no idea.
Okay, so you can imagine how 50 people in a room for a weekend, 50 smart people in a room for a weekend talking about this problem, how much fun it was. And also how totally consuming it was, and how I didn't get my work done. And, it definitely had a negative impact on my life overall, but so worth it for the learning experience. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen with you now because really just a little bit of observation about the reflective essays. I'm looking forward to reading those. I think we should always remind ourselves that and I guess this actually kind of relates to my Facebook experience, is that I won't really know what I think about what I learned at that Facebook meeting until I write about it, until I reflect on it. And since I just got back like last night at midnight, I really haven't had a chance to reflect on it. I'm reflecting on it with you now for the first time, and I need to write about it because John Dewey said that learning doesn't happen through action. It happens through reflection on action. And the idea that learning happens not through action, but reflection on action is actually a really deep and complicated idea, and one that I hope you got a chance to experience in writing the reflective essay. I feel like I've been learning the lesson about as an impulsive person, I feel like I've been learning like the value of reflection my entire life, and I still don't fully understand it. But obviously, we're hoping that as you're moving through this online course, you're aware that this 1 hour a week that we have together is not enough time to really engage in the reflection that you need to be doing, and that learning really only happens if you do that. Okay, enough said. All right, so now our topic is copyright, fair use, and creativity, and we're going to break up into some groups. What I'd like you to do is pick one or maybe two of these questions to talk through with your partner. What is the purpose of copyright? Why is the doctrine of fair use such an important part of copyright law? What kinds of misunderstandings do educators have about copyright and fair use in relation to digital learning? How did educational use guidelines, charts, and checklists develop, and what consequences do they have for teachers and librarians? What is the code of best practices in fair use for media literacy education, and how is it different from the guidelines? Why does the legal use of copyrighted material need to be assessed on a case-by-case basis? Why is parody protected by copyright law? Why is remix protected? What are the limits of these protections? What is digital rights management, and why is it controversial? what are the 3 visions for the future of copyright, and which one most resonates with you? And the 3 visions for the future of copyright are Creative Commons, the best practices approach, and the non-market sharing, right? To hell with copyright altogether. Okay, so question 10, what's the one thing you wish everyone knew about how copyright law relates to digital literacy? So at this point, I'm going to break you up into 3 groups. I'm going to ask you to identify and talk through the answer to a question that you can answer that's meaningful to you. Share around the 3 or 4 of you in the group. We'll take about 7 or 8 minutes at the most. We'll take about 7 minutes to do that. We'll come back and then we'll hear a highlights reel. Give me a thumbs up if you understand what we're doing next. Awesome. Here's the breakout rooms. Oh, wait. What happened? Oh, shit. Sorry. Oh, man. You know, you press one button and everything goes wrong. Come on. I don't know how I did that. Okay. Ooh, that was scary. Yeah, it's late at night. I guess my little fingers are tired. So here we go. There's the breakout room. See if you can find your way in. Pick a question that you are interested in. Talk it over with your team.
Having told them for so many years, you know, that these are the guidelines that it had to fit in, and I was actually doing them a disservice by forcing them into those. So anyway, what questions are you guys looking at as possibilities here? James, anything hitting there with you?
I'm trying to look, but from the readings, it's still, even after reading, it would have to like create some sort of checklist in order to keep things in check, you know. And one of the easiest things that resonated with me is, you know, is it contextualized into the instructional practices, and always thinking in terms like that. That was a great little insight, just to always keep that in check. And then also, trying to think, there's so much of it. I made bullet points on my on my blog space, just in my reflective essay. But
I think you're kind of headed to that 6th question about how it should be kind of still a case by case. Even though you have a checklist, you need to kind of look at each individual instance in relation to that checklist. So you still need to add judgment into that, even beyond that checklist, I think.
No, I completely agree, and just kind of think in terms of like a combative checklist, especially for me as a new educator. You know, how to, and digital literacy practices, is how to best approach this, and how students can incorporate the usage of medias, and obviously frequency distribution is also going to be of a concern.
Yeah, I mean, because the